Checkered flags waved as Latin music blared. The sound of luxury car engines accelerated like that of a roaring lion. These were all signs that the new season had begun. Young adrenaline seekers gathered at the famous racetrack dubbed by industry insiders as the Hollows, where all their rage can be unleashed and every wish can be fulfilled without limits. The giant digital clock on the billboard at the edge of the stadium read 13 to 15, which meant there were only 15 minutes until the first round. As per tradition, the tournament starts with an opening match against the team with the best performance from the previous season. The names of the teams that were posted on the competition announcements attracted many people amid the hot weather where the skin almost burned. Welcome everyone to the grand opening of the new season with the biggest, most exciting, and most out-of-this-world racing track, the Hollows. The commentary of a professional voice actor had the racers and spectators cheering loudly on the field. Young people who were scattered throughout the stadium compacted their space and came to take up seats in the stands, knowing that it wouldn't be too long until the show began. The contestants in the first round would bring their expensive and precious children out to show off as a treat. If you think last season was fierce, let me tell you, this season is going to be more intense. We have both new and energetic teams coming to the field to compete with each other, such as T9, Million Miles, 6Z, and Rising Stars, who are favorites for the Summer League, Blackburn. The fans of the new racing team cheered loudly, awakening the fire for both fans and racers in the blink of an eye. The racers waiting on the sidelines turned to wave to the fans in large numbers. They were like new stars in the world of racing that are worth watching. But compared to the seniors, who have been in the industry for a long time, this level of popularity was not shocking at all. This season's rookies can be said to be worth keeping an eye on in every team. Today, we don't just have a new generation of energetic people but the senior teams that have created legends for many seasons and are still returning to create new legends this season. Shout out to Deadline, Quarterback, Race Chaser. No matter what field the favorite was from, when it came to this field, the real king was still the real king all day long and would never let anyone easily overthrow them. And the legendary king of the Hollows, X-Hunter. The cheers of the entire stadium sounded crazier than before. It showed just how big the final team's name was. Even if one was not a big fan, everyone who came to watch the match at this very stadium had one goal in common, and that was to see a beautiful luxury car that other teams couldn't reach, and the famous racing skills of the team that was known as the real Hunter. There's still 10 minutes left. But it seemed the hunters who were supposed to be there were hunting elsewhere. Oh, they'll come soon. A tall figure in a racer's uniform stood casually sipping his coffee while the track staff were sweating because a racer had suddenly disappeared 10 minutes before the start of the race. But he should be on standby now. The seemingly new member of staff reminded the young racer with an impatient expression. Besides, he has to check. Is this your first day at work? Wade turned to smile at the new team with a closed-eyed smile that he had to admit looked good without teasing. But in the eyes of the newbies right now, it felt strangely creepy. Yes? Oh, I understand. The young racer nodded lightly, slowly moving his legs closer to the other person and deliberately lowering his face to be at the same level as the technician's team. This made the new kid sweat profusely. Don't worry about checking the car. It was completed a long time ago. A racer cannot forget to check their car before racing, right? But I didn't order you to answer. The deep voice sounded soft to the ear, but the words that came out caused goosebumps to run throughout his body, and what was even eerier was the fact that in just a split second, the handsome face smiled widely and kindly again before continuing with his words. In addition to preparing, the car racers must prepare their bodies and minds as well. And now, he is preparing himself in his way. The new kid froze as the famous racer's strange stare seemed to pierce his skull. The fact that he was teased by his seniors for coming to look for famous racers on the first day alone was considered serious enough, but who would have thought that meeting that person's teammates would be just as bad? Then I suggest that we just wait here. Wei straightened up and returned to his normal position, smiling casually again. The other person's attitude made him feel unfazed. It was as if this person intended to frighten him like that. He will be here when it's time. We will experience an exciting race. The locker room was dimly lit. There was only a little light that filtered through the open blinds. There should be no one inside because, at a time like this, everyone was supposed to gather at the edge of the field to watch the game. But let's be real, even if one doesn't go and reserve a space close to the edge of the field, it probably wouldn't be a big deal because the main character who should be on the field right now was still calm. He even brought himself to relax in the locker room. Moans and gasps were released without restraints, not caring if anyone walking by at the time would accidentally hear the embarrassing sounds. The needs that needed to be fulfilled right now were greater, hence, getting caught in the middle of this very private activity was the least of his worries. Fi! A hoarse voice sounded in his ears. It sounded a bit annoying the way the tall kid kept calling him Fi over and over as if he were having sex with a child, more like a high school kid. Do you think he was pleased doing something like that? Disgusting. Are you not in a hurry? You're not in a hurry to compete? Hurry up and finish this, the young racer said, in a cranky tone, while leaving his back to the locker with one leg raised, making penetration easier. The team's black racing suit with red stripes was carelessly abandoned on the floor. It was not of importance if the owner didn't release stress once before competing. The feeling when stepping on the accelerator would still be terrible. Damn it, the young boy cursed at the chance to savor the taste of someone everyone called a high-class person, a celebrity he had always looked up to from afar. Today, he was hugging and holding on to the tall and slender body, squeezing that thin waist with an oily hand, and pushing his hardness into the tight channel, and it felt like he was floating in heaven. I'm having so much fun. The senior racer closed his eyes and forced himself to hurry to his climax, but no matter how much he tried, the thing that bothered him right now was continuously hindering his happiness. The more the young man thrust harder, the higher the pheromones in his body became, the more it surged. The signature scent of the young alpha was released in full force. The room was closed on all sides with no ventilation, and the stinking smell began to fill the room in no time. The pheromones of an alpha that had just entered puberty were already very strong, and having sex passionately with another alpha did nothing but make the atmosphere denser with pheromones, such that if an omega walked past, they would be greatly affected. But seriously, let's not talk about omega. All of a sudden, ouch! An alpha like him couldn't stand it either. The young boy screamed when he was suddenly pushed aside in the middle of his journey when he was about to reach his climax. The senior racer flipped his hair up and pursed his lips in an extremely irritated manner before bending down to pick up the racing suit that was on the floor and putting it back on, looking like he wanted to get out of there. Wait a minute, the young man protested in confusion. What is the matter? I'm almost finished. Are you going to find something to rub it on, or are you going to do it yourself? The young racer furrowed his brow as he unzipped his racing suit. Hey, how can I? Didn't I already tell you that if you want to fuck me, don't let me smell your dog's curse? The young man didn't dare speak further when he heard the decisive sentence that came with the famous senior's angry tone. He had always heard of his reputation for having a hot temper that no one was skilled enough to extinguish, and meeting the famous racer in person, he was indeed scary. He should be annoyed at being toppled from heaven in front of his eyes, but he dared not argue. It stinks. It's good I didn't throw up. The older man made a pouting gesture before walking out of the room, not bothering to look back at his partner, whom he had just been cuddling with a few minutes before. Meanwhile, the younger man could only watch as the famous racer walked away like that, unable to demand anything. Even if he was left in the middle of the road, he had to accept it. If the top racer was upset, then it would be bad to anger him even further, as that would make things more difficult. In just a moment, our first round of the competition will begin. Are you ready yet? The main MC still gave a good speech to encourage the supporters. Meanwhile, the new team members were walking slowly, alternating with checking their wristwatches every second. There were now only 3 minutes left before the match began. The other racers had all arrived at the same time, and there was only one person left who hadn't shown his head yet.